Chanuka. All right, there are really two sichas here, but let's do the second one. We're going to do the second sicha. The first one we'll go back to. It was also when they made they filmed it or whatever, when they copied it onto the email. So there's a couple of pages that are sort of crooked in the previous sicha. So let's just start with this sicha. It's very interesting. It points out a very interesting fact about the lights of Chanuka, that it's the only, like I talked about before, it's the only commandment in the whole Torah that has this idea of mahadrin mina mahadrin. So let's have a look and see. The mitzvah from Ner Chanuka is angeteilt. It's different from all the mitzvahs, all the other commandments in the Torah from the rabbis in Tzvei Zachen in two ways. Of course, we know that the commandment of lighting the lights of Chanuka it's only from the rabbis, not only from the rabbis, it's from the rabbis. The commandments of the rabbis in some ways have more power than the commandments from the Torah. In some ways, you have to be very careful about them. Sometimes they're very, very severe. The punishment also can be makinoto achemotzi nishmato, it says sometimes. But in any case, the commandment of Chanuka is different from the commandment. But the rabbis, when they made a commandment that had anything to do with Torah commandments, they tried to make it as similar to the Torah as possible. But here we'll see it's a little bit different than all the other commandments of the Torah and of the rabbis. In all the mitzvahs, all the Torah, there's the doing the Torah, the rabbis, there's doing the commandment like it should be. When they're hidur, and you can also, if you want to, you can do the commandment in a special way. Hidur mitzvah. It says, nit kain hidur mina hidur. There's no way that you can, in the other commandments, you can do hidur mina hidur. You can do the commandment in a special way. You want to do the commandment a little bit more special, you can do it special, right? You have Shabbos, you have guests, you want, instead of having 10 guests, you have 50 guests, you have 100 guests, right? That's called hidur. You want to do 100, you want to do 1,000 guests, it's also called hidur. There's no such thing as a mahadrin, mina mahadrin. Like I said before, you have tefillin, regular tefillin that are kosher, cost $300 or whatever. That's, the minimum. You can be sure that they're kosher. $350, who knows dollars. You want to be special, so you pay $2,000 for a pair of tefillin. If you yourself want to go and pay $50,000 for a tefillin, that's not mahadrin. There's no such thing as a mitzvah that's mahadrin min mahadrin. You personally wanted to do more. It's not officially, there's mahadrin from mahadrin. Special of the special. A rayo iftem, the proof of this, the Gemara says, hidur mitzvahs ad kama. The mitzvah says, the Torah, the Gemara says, if you want to do the commandment, that's wonderful. You have to do the commandment. If you want to do the commandment in a special way, then it says, how much should you add on? 1/3. Add on 1/3. Any more than that, that comes from yourself. And even more, it says, as biza shlish is mishalo, that up to third is you're adding on your own. And mikan ve'elech mishal HaKodesh Baruch Hu. This is God's business. It's nothing to do with yours. It comes out as men can mahadra, that you can do a mahadra in mitzvahs, zayin, anashir, whatever you want to. Un does al's gate and hidur mitzvah. This is called hidur mitzvah. You want to do the commandment that you are commanded to do. If you want to be special, that's called a hidur mitzvah. You want to be super special, it's called a hidur mitzvah. You want to be super, super special, it's only called a hidur mitzvah. It's not called a mahadrin, mina mahadrin. Darkagan, against this is the mitzvah of Ner Chanuka. There is not only just the mitzvah alone, but there's also the hidur of the mitzvah. And there's also mahadrin, mina mahadrin. Like I told you before, right? The main mitzvah is just to light one candle. If every night you light only one candle, only one, the 8th night of Hanukkah, only one candle, you've done the commandment. I remember we did that once. We went to a jail here in Israel, and we were lighting candles it was the 8th night of Hanukkah, And we got permission from the guards and everything like that. And it was really quite amazing, actually, because we lit the candles in all the room. We danced with the prisoners in each and every room, Jewish prisoners, danced with the prisoners in every room. And when we left, we walked out, we saw that all the rooms, they had pushed the beds around the candles and they were just sitting quietly and watching the candles, every single room. Before that, there was noise and screaming and yelling. And they were just sitting and watching quietly, saw the light but after reflecting off their faces, this yellow light, and it's just sort of amazing, placid look. Heavenly look on their face. I couldn't explain it. In any case, there was one room that we didn't notice at the end. And they yelled to us, hey, what about us? What about us? And so we only had one candle left out of this. So we said, listen, that's the mitzvah. You light one candle. So we lit one candle on the last night, and they were happy. Everybody was happy, and we lit, because that's the commandment. One candle every night. You want to be special, you light according to the number of people in the room. Every night, the same number. How many people are in your household? You have 10 people in your household, a mother and father and 8 children. So you light 10 candles. The first night, 10 candles. The second night, 10 candles. You want to be mahadrin, mina mahadrin, then you light, every person in the family lights a different number every night to show how many there are. Right? Some people in Chabad, we have the custom only the men light the candles, but nevertheless, a different number every night. So that's officially mahadrin mina mahadrin. And that's number one difference. Number two difference in all the mitzvahs, all the commandments, Zayin and Rovid, the majority of Jews, they only do the commandment alone. But in their mitzvah from Ner Chanuka, in Ner Chanuka, the custom is that all of the Jews do not just the commandment alone, but all of the Jews do mahadrin mina mahadrin. It's not that you have an option. If you want to, you can do mahadrin mina mahadrin, which is the fact. The fact is you have an option. You don't have to light 8 candles, right? Start off with 1 and 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do that. You can light 1 candle every night, and that's the commandment. But nevertheless, we see that it's not just special Jews or the religious Jews or the Hasidic Jews or the Litvish Jews or some special Jews that are really, really careful. They are the ones that do the commandments. No. They do mihadrim. Every single Jew, even Jews that don't know anything about anything, they light Chanuka candles and they light mahadrin mina mahadrin. In Chanuka, Zayin Faran, there are 2 miracles. Why is this? In Chanuka, there were 2 mitzvahs, 2 miracles. First of all, there was the miracle of the victory of the war. Was oivdem hatmen metaken gaven halal v'hoda. That's this blessing that we make, ala nisim, and we also say halal every day. That's one miracle that there was. That was a pretty big miracle. I mean, says there was 13 people that defeated thousands, tens of thousands of Greeks. Number 2 was the nes from Pach Hashem, the miracle from the oil, which on this hatmen metaken, there was established the mitzvah of metaken, and we fixed the lighting of the candles. The Indian from mahadrin, this whole thing that we said before about the mahadrin of the mahadrin is only by the lighting of the candles. It's not nit in the mitzvah of halal b'hoda, nor in mitzvahs hadlakas ner. It's only in the commandments of the lights. Was es is verbunda, which this is connected with the miracle from the bottle of oil. Or if all is by all the commandments of b'chalalam, also the miracle from the nitzachon of the milchama, vetman verstehen, we can understand no chafriya der clearing what we said before as in di hanhagos shalamayla zayin faran der tzilin ofen hanhagos. I say Dre zayin faran dreyer lay ofen hanhagos. That from the way that God acts with us, treats us, there's also 3 ways of influence from God. And we just talked about 3 ways that we can serve God. Doing the commandment in a mahadrin, special way, And doing the commandment, mahadrin min mahadrin. Similarly, there's three ways that God deals with us. Number one, hanagativis, natural. A natural likar oifirin, a natural conduct. God creates the world. Was zi gufa ken sein der hoibene batzlacha. There is a natural way that God does things, and sometimes this can be elevated like a success. You can see success in which you can become rich, you can be famous. Es ist taka an inyan from hatzlacha, aber from deswegen is das hatzlacha v'zalpiteva. You can be successful, but it's a way of successful that it's according to nature, right? The stock market goes up, all of a sudden people like your product, whatever it is, succeed. That's one way. Number two, hanhaga nisit. Sometimes God does miracles. Was his hecher from tev, which is higher than nature. Was a zoy given, which this was also der nitzchon milchama. This was the victory of the war of Chanuka, a miracle. A nes was his hecher from tev. It's a miracle that was higher from nature. Varum, because es is doch given giburim biad chalashim v'rabim miad me'atim. Because there were strong people, the powerful Greeks that had conquered the whole world, and God put them into the hands of the weak. And the many, which were the Greeks, God put them in the hands of the few. It was a miracle. And as if we learned, if you were with us on Friday, right? You were with us on Friday, so we learned that the majority of the Jews, like 99% of the Jews, they joined in with the Greeks. So it was a big miracle that we won the war. But this was oib as volt sein giburim biad giburim voltas sein hatzlacha. If it was the Jews were strong and the enemy was strong, so this would be a nature. For room as is the milchama, there was a war, and we were very thankful that we won. But it wouldn't be a miracle. It wouldn't be a miraculous. Giburim biad chalashim b'rabim ma'atatim is hecher from tev, but this is higher from nature. I remember when I wasn't religious back then, but I remember the 6-day war. I was told about this, that amazing miracles. Everybody in the world saw was a tremendous miracles that the Israeli army defeated these armies that were like 6 times bigger than us. And the Israeli government, they said, no way. No way. They advertised all over the world. It was not a miracle. No way it was a miracle. We just have a very superior army. And our Air Force, nothing like it. Our pilots, whoa, they're just the greatest. Especially, you better watch out for us because, our pilots are not like anybody else. So in other words, according to the world, they saw it was a miracle. But the Israeli government, they said, no, it's a miracle. It was, well, we're wonderful. We're happy that we won, but we won because nature, we won according to nature. Right? And we're thankful to who? To our army, to our forces, to our luck. So we see that there's 2 ways that God can deal with the world. One is according to nature, and the other one is according to a miracle. This is reflected in the victory of the war. The victory of the war that we won back then, there were only 13. Back then, nobody can say it was our pilots. There were only 13 Chashmonim. They were Kohanim. They weren't warriors at all, and they won this amazing battle. That was a miracle. But then there's something even higher than that. Hanhaga versus Hecher from the Nays. This is even higher from a miracle. Inyan was muzen nid zayin mitzad inyanim for a goof. This is something which is totally not connected to anything physical. Adar afila from the shama, or it's not even anything spiritual. No, das is a hidur. This is a special, what's called a hidur, a special thing. In Inyanya neshama, that in things, in the soul, a das is given, der nes was mehat gefunden, dem shemen tor was is given, an inyan from was is verbunden, nor mit the neshama. For instance, there is, with the fact that they found the 1 bottle of oil, That they found this one bottle of oil that wasn't impure, this is a miracle. This is a soul thing. Und noch mehr, and even more, es is given oif laharos chivasen shel Yisrael. This is in order to show the dearness of the Jewish people, because according to the law, men gekent sinden oich mit shemen tameh. Because according to the law of the Torah, you can light with impure oil. Why? Tuma hutra or dechuya or hutra betzibur. Because there's a special law that says impurity is pushed away by if all the Jews, the majority of the Jews are impure, then you can go to the Holy Temple impure. When their neis is given, bichdei laharos chibasin shel Yisrael. Okay, let me explain this a little bit here. What's going on? The Jewish people won an amazing miracle, amazing battle. We're going to see for a moment how ridiculous this battle really was, and their motivation was even more crazy. Their motivation. What happened over here? The Greeks did not destroy the Jewish people. They did not destroy the temple. We talked about this before. They defiled the temple. They went in and they didn't spill out the oil. They didn't they pour out the oil. They didn't break the menorah. They left the menorah there. They went in. All the oil was there. They just opened up all the bottles. According to some things, they touched the oil, but didn't do anything bad. Nothing sinister or evil. Apparently, they just touched all the oil. So the Jews went in. They fought this amazing, terrible battle with the stabbing and killing and cutting people up. Terrible, awful battle, and they won. The Greeks, the Greeks said, we can't deal with these people, and the Greeks surrendered. What did the Jews immediately do? They went into the Holy Temple, and they looked around for the oil, and they found there was a lot of oil, but all the bottles had been opened. So they said, we can't use this oil. Well, the fact of the matter is they could have used this oil, because there's a law that if even the majority, and for certainly if all of the Jews or the vessels or the whatever it is, accoutrements, whatever you call it, that have to be used for a commandment in the temple, if they're impure, is you can use them. Impure. Where did they get this law? There's a law of Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is that if there are individuals that are impure from no fault of their own, as they can make a second Passover. Passover lamb or goat is very, very important in Judaism, very essential. It's a very Jewish thing, right? A very Jewish thing that to make the sacrifice of the Pesach. It's one of the only, this and being circumcised are the only two positive commandments that the punishment is death from heaven, according, if you don't do it. So the making the Korban Pesach, very, very important. What if a person becomes impure, right? He happens to be in a house where somebody dies or something, he's impure. So he can't make the Pesach, the first Pesach offering, can't do it. So he says, don't worry about it. They made exactly a month later, that's what's called second Pesach, Pesach Sheni. Impure people can go there. He says, when does this mean impure people go there? That's if the minority of the Jews are impure. 1 or 2 people, 10 people, 1,000 people, who knows? The minority are, but if the majority of the Jewish people are impure, then they can go and make the first Passover impure, because Tuma Hutra Betzibur. Impurity is permissible. So here's the same thing. All the oil is impure. They didn't have to go looking around for the pure oil. They could look, they saw all the bottles had been opened up. They could use impure oil. It was totally permissible. And not only that, the oil was the same oil, it had the same smell. The lamp was the same lamp. The light was the same light. The flame was the same flame. Everything was exactly the same. The miracle, therefore, that they found this bottle of oil was to show how God loves the Jewish people. So this is like a miracle on a miracle. That God controls the world and rules the world. That's already called, even though it's a big miracle, but that's called nature. God does it all the time. We take it for granted, but okay. Then once in a while, God does a big miracle. He takes the Jews from Egypt or something. That's a big miracle for the Jewish people, right? For He saved us. He gave us water from a rock and from a heaven. the bread from heaven. This is a miracle. But then there's this miracle of Hanukkah, which was really totally unnecessary. It was a miracle of a miracle. God showed his special dearness of the Jewish people. He was willing to do for them things that they did. It wasn't really necessary for them. It didn't take them out of Egypt. They could have, right? It wasn't saving their lives. It was just showing how much God loves us. That we found this bottle of oil, pure oil, which we could have used the impure oil. He knows because that everything above comes from our service from below, Zayin and Faran, Dreya, Fanim, and Avodas Islam. There's also three ways of serving God. They bring in the Dreya Hagas, which this causes God to react in this way that he does, like the miracles of Chanuka, which are miracles that are just to show his love for us. First of all, a person can serve God in a natural way. Kum dorach mekayim dein Torah v'mitzvahs. A Jew, a natural Jew. What is a natural Jew? A normal Jew. He does Torah and he does the commandments. V'yeshteit, like it says, b'chukosai telechu, v'natati gishmeichem b'itam. You do Torah and commandments, you have a better life. Ze'ibrekar brachas, and all the other blessings. A Jew does Torah and mitzvahs. He has an orderly life. He has a life which makes sense. A life which is, it's more likely that his wife is going to be faithful to him and his children will be normal and they won't take drugs. The chances of a normal life increase drastically. You act God with, in a good way, God will act, but that's called natural. Then there's Hanaga Nisis. Then sometimes a Jew can act in a above normal way. Kum durach hidur mitzvah. You do a hidur mitzvah. Basas as banugant zich nit mit mekayim zayin mitzvahs belois v'alpidin, when a person is not sufficient, that he does the commandments just the way that he should, and that's enough. You do what you have to do, and that's enough. Nor man is mahader in their mitzvahs, but you do hidur mitzvah. Men zucht as the mitzvah soll sein behidur. Mitzvah should be special. Done, get there, Eibishter, then God gives Mida Keneged Mida, then but then this inspires God to act in a way that he also does for us miracles. But then there's a third way, the Drita and Haga, the third way of a kunt, durch Mesiras Nefesh. This is a crazy way of serving God. Total self-sacrifice. It's unnecessary, it's uncalled for. You want to serve God in a special way, Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice. You're not expecting anything in return. Exactly the opposite. You're giving everything. You're giving everything away to God. Vos is no hecher. This is higher from anything of a hidur mitzvah. What is this thing of Mesiras Nefesh? Always talked about in Chabad. Mesiras Nefesh, hidur mitzvah. I just have to say this story. I used to, when I lived in Bnei Brak, so when I lived in Bnei Brak, I lived in Bnei Brak for 4 years. So when I lived in Bnei Brak, I used to take sichas of the Rebbe and I would distribute them around to synagogues on Friday. On Friday, that they would be in the synagogues. And I would do it in the daytime. I didn't have to do it. And it was, but I'm, I like action, so I would go around and I would. But then I noticed that there were people that were coming after me. There was a big opposition to Chabad over there. Not to go into it, it's a very embarrassing and a shameful story, but that's what there was. And they would go around after me, I discovered, and they would take the sichot that I would do, and I would throw them away. They would throw them in the garbage. So I realized this was happening. I figured, what am I going to do? How am I going to get around this? So the only way I could get around it was, these people who were doing it, they were also religious Jews. These were religious Jews that were doing it. So I figured, listen, these people, they have to also keep Shabbat themselves. So they're not going to go running after me at the last moment. So I had to go around to these shuls at the last moment and put this. So I was it was like I had maybe a half of an hour to go to, 15, 20 shuls. And I would go around and I would run, put these things. And of course I was sweating. There was the last shul I would go into, there was this old fellow, a nice fellow. He was, an old and a normal, regular, a Jew, like they call it a Yeki Jew. I don't think he had a beard. And he was maybe a fellow, 56 years old. And he would sit there and I would come in, I would be sweating, and he would say, Chabad, Mesirus Nefesh, Mesirus Nefesh, Mesirus Nefesh, you would say every time. I thought, yeah, he's got actually a point. I would run around like a madman. Right before I would come home, I would be all sweating, all this. So that's what's called Mesirut Nefesh. Mesirut Nefesh means doing things in a way that's totally uncalled for, and you do it only because you think that's what Hashem wants. But you're sure that's what Hashem wants. It has to be a thing. You're sure that, but it's not really necessary. You could do it in a more normal, a more normal way. Like you say, a person buys a pair of tefillin. So he buys a pair of tefillin, $300. Good. He wants to be Hidr mitzvah, so he buys a pair of tefillin, $2,000. Wants to Hidr Mahadrin min Mahadrin, he's willing to put on tefillin even in Auschwitz, even in Siberia. He's going to sacrifice his time that he could go to sleep. He's a soldier in the Israeli army. He sacrifices his 15 minutes of rest in order to put on tefillin. I know something. That's what's called Mesirut Nefesh. The Maila from Mesirut Nefesh, the advantage of Mesirut Nefesh from a Hidr mitzvah is, Hidr mitzvah means as tut nit di zach weil muz das tan. Hidr mitzvah means he's doing something as tut nit, he's not doing the thing because he has to do it. Right? You don't have to buy a pair of tefillin for $2,000. Nor hata geshmak, he enjoys it. He wants to have special tefillin, he has a geshmak, and he gives charity. He loves to give a lot of charity, much more than he has to do. Therefore, zuchter als wie far besser, and therefore he wants to do the best way that he can possibly do, more than he has to. And their mashal of this is from connect a servant, was mekayim them befall, which he does the commandment of a king. When oiber had nit kain geschmack, if he doesn't have any desire in this, then he does exactly what the king tells him to do, not anymore. Done is there makayim, no, they're the fall, then he does the commandment alone. On zuch nitzu mahadri, he doesn't want to do anymore. While had nit kain geschmack, and then he doesn't have any pleasure. But the kegen oib di zach is by entire, but if the thing that he's doing is very dear, important, and he has a life in this, then he can do mahadr, he can do it special. But from deswegen, nevertheless, is a metzius from zich. Nevertheless, he is a separate, the servant is a servant, and the king is a king. Two separate things. He is going to do it special because he likes to do it special. He wants to do it special. As is Faran, their geschmack, but he has a pleasure in how much he can do the commandment in a special way. They do more. The kegen, but then we have what's called self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice means as is in ganzen kein mitzius nid, that he has no existence for himself whatsoever. Nid, he has no existence for himself. Sein ganz's whole existence is only to do the will of the king. He's willing to die. My teacher, Rabbi Mendel Futefes, he told me that he doesn't know if it was Napoleon, if it was the Tsar, but in any case, he had to go over a deep stream, a shallow river, and there was no bridge, and he couldn't go over with so his soldiers laid down in the river so he would go over. And as they knew, they weren't thinking about whether they were going to die or not. All they were thinking about, lay down, self-sacrifice. Er is nit oiser. He says that's what a chassid is. A chassid is, he wants to bring Mashiach, even if it means he has to lay down in the river, be the lowest. He's the one that lays down closest to the bed. He doesn't think about where he is and how he is. He wants to be the first one. Er is nit oisen as soll sein, the trachter, their zoger. It doesn't make a difference to him. He doesn't care that he wants to be, that he's going to say it, or he's going to do it, or their tour, or he's going to be the one that thought up the idea. It's going to be attributed to him. He's the one that did it. All he wants that the thing should be done. Ubamela is thus kind nafka min. It doesn't make any difference if he's the one that does it or somebody else does it. Makes no difference. Undurach them, by means of this service, what's called Masirut Nefesh. That's what it was with the Hashmonaim. I mean, you can ask a question: how? Okay, they won the battle. That's something, but how did they even begin the battle? There was only 13 of them, and they were going to fight against tens of thousands. Okay, let's say all the tens of thousands weren't lined up against them, right? But to even start the battle, they knew that they were going to be pursued. They knew that eventually they were going to have a standoff between. How did they even begin such a thing? It says that's called Masirut Nefesh. They didn't care. All they knew is they had to purify the temple, and that's the only way that it could be done. As Lake Zekavek, he puts himself totally away, on the side. Lake Davek, Afiladai Neshama, he puts even his soul aside. He's not interested in improving his soul or improving his lot. The main thing is, I am just to do the commandment. Even if nobody even knows about it, just think how many hundreds, thousands, Shemishmor, even millions of Jews, hundreds of thousands of Jews died because of their Judaism, and nobody even knows that they did it. Nobody knows where they're buried. There's nobody knows anything that they did. It was just between them and God. Done, salt up the Eibishter, then God knows, and God gives Mida Keneged Mida. And then God repays in kind. Then God's action with the Jews is above just being a nace. It's above being a miracle. As is, was is nit verbunden mit Metzius. It's a miracle that's completely seemingly no benefit, like the lights of Chanuka. They could have used regular oil. And they put enough. If it would have lit one day, that would have been good enough, right? That's what they did their best. What could they do? And that, in fact, they could have lit 8 days with not clear oil, with not pure oil. They could have lit 8 days. They could have lit 800 days with not pure. But no, they insisted on fighting a big battle. So Hashem made a big miracle for them, that he showed them one bottle, and that one bottle was pure, and that lasted for 8 days. The whole thing, finding the bottle in 8 days, that it lasted 8 days, it was just a miracle above a miracle. So to speak, it didn't benefit anyone. What it did benefit is that the Jews knew that they had a special connection with God, and that God has a special connection with them. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Maybe we'll look at the Yom Yom. Let's look at Yom Yom today. Today's Yom Yom. Where is it? Where is my Yom Yom book? Here it is. No, not there. Well, probably it's right in front of my eyes, but I, for some reason, do not see it. All right, we'll have to try to do it today in the afternoon class. God willing, 3 o'clock, we will learn Chumash. Today is Chumash. We'll see how much we'll learn, because we have to light candles today at like 4:30. We have to daven mincha, but we'll see. We'll try to learn Chumash, and we'll begin at least the Mishnayos of Pesachim. Have a good day, everyone. God bless you all. Shalom.